Hello, I'm Liviu Bolan, and today I will speak about SSHD configuration. As you can see here, I'm having a VirtualBox application with Ubuntu Server installed. This operating system includes an SSH server installed. So I will start the machine. And meanwhile, I will open a terminal. Let's minimize the VirtualBox app, and as you used to until now, on my left side I'm having the commands that I will use during this tutorial, and on my right side this is the terminal that I will use to call these commands. Okay, so I will connect to my VirtualBox machine using SSH space the username that is on my VirtualBox Liviu at http://liviubolan.com. If you want to learn more about how to use hosts on local operating system, how to install SSH and much more, you can look on my tutorials on YouTube, or visit my website liviubolan.com. So hit enter. Here I will type yes, type the password of user Liviu on the remote machine, and now I'm connected to my VirtualBox machine using SSH. Okay, what I want to achieve during this tutorial is to show you different configuration options that you have on your SSH server. This tutorial is only about configuration of the SSH server and not the SSH client, the SSH that you use to connect to your server. To learn more about how to configure your SSH server, type man sshd space _config and hit enter. This is the manual for SSHD configuration file, and here you will see a lot of options, more than I will discuss during this tutorial. To quit this manual page, hit the Q key. Okay, as you can see here, I wrote some useful tips that will be very useful for you when you config an SSHD file. Okay, as you can see here, be advised, however, if your only method of access to your server is SSH and you make a mistake in configuring SSH via etc ssh sshdconfig file, you may find you are locked out of the server upon restarting it. What does it want to say, this sentence? Is that if your only access method to your SSH to your server or VPS or something else is SSH, and you configure something bad, you cannot connect to your SSH server again. You will have to call a system administrator, or you have to physically go to your machine to resolve the problem. The second sentence is, whatever security precaution you've taken you might want to set the login level to verbose for a week and see how much spurious traffic you get. So what I want to say here is that even if you use firewalls, even if you use a strict authentication method or whatever, you will want to monitor the activity of your users, even the users you know or you don't know, to see if someone wants to hack your website or wants to hack your server or wants to get access to your server and stuff like this. Or even if you configure something bad, you can see it in the log files. The third sentence, note that the Debian SSH server package sets several options as standard in ATC SSH sshdconfig, which are not the default in SSHD. What this want to say is that if you use Debian or Ubuntu based distributions, you will see that the configuration file use some default options that are not in the default documentation of SSH server. Okay, so let's open a new tab here. This is my local operating system and this is the remote operating system, and you will see in a moment why. Okay, or maybe let's open another tab. Let's connect here with SSH, leave you at http://leaveyoualan.com. Okay, and first thing you want to do in order to configure your SSH server is to edit the sshdconfig file located in ATC SSH, and in order to be able to write in this file, you have to use the sudo writes. This is the configuration file that is used by SSH, and in order to apply the options that you made in this file, you have to restart the SSH service. In Debian or Ubuntu based operating systems, you will use sudo service ssh restart. Okay, as you can see here, first option that you want to edit is the port. The default port for SSH is 22, but if you want to increase the security of your server, you can change it. What I want to say is that even if here you see the configurations used by SSH, there are a lot of more options that you can use. And as I shown you a little earlier, you can use man /sshdconfig option, and you will see here that there are more options that you see here. And as I told you on the third sentence here, this is the default for a Debian SSH server. Okay, so if you want to change the port that is used by your SSH server, you can change this option, let's say 022, and I will write in this file, and on the second tab I will use sudo ssh sudo service ssh restart. As you can see, I wrote the command, but I didn't press the enter key. Now, if I want to connect using SSH leaveyou at http.leaveyoubalan.com, I am able to do it, but if I restart the service, the SSH service, and use the same command again, you will see here that the connection is refused. That is because I've changed the default port, which is 22. In order to access the server using the new port, I will have to use the -p option of SSH command. Now I'm able to log in to my SSH server. I will change the port to use the default option, and next I will change the listen address here, which is commented, to 192.168.56.101, which is the address of my which is the IP of my machine. If I restart the service and connect again without the port, because I put the port as the default, now I'm able to connect to my machine. You will see that nothing happened, but what this is trying to say, this one wants to say is the listen address specify the local address that SSHD should listen to. So this increases the security of your SSH server, and it's up to you if you want to use it or not. Okay, next option here is the protocol version, which is 2, and I recommend to use it. Next, there are the host keys that the SSH server is using, and if you want to see these keys, you have to gain a sudo access, because if you look at the first one with ls, you will see that is owned by the root user from root group, and only the root user is having read and write rights. Okay. Next is use privilege separation, which is turned on for security, so don't change this option. Next, there are some values that are used for keys on SSH server, so the default values are pretty okay. And next is the logging options. As you can see here, you have syslog facility, which gives the facility code that is used when logging messages from SSHD. In other words, here you will say your SSH server what to log. The option here is to log only when the user is authenticating. The next option is to specify SSH, the verbosity level that is used when logging messages from SSH. In other words, here you say to your SSH server what kind of messages to log and how much detailed the messages will be. In order to see a difference between different kinds of logging, you can use this command tail -f and the location of your authentication file. And as you can see here, let's type enter sometime for a while, and I will exit, and here you will see that a user disconnected from the SSH server, and that user is leaving. If you connect again, you will see here that the user were accepted and the session is open. Now, if I change this value to, let's say, debug, right, and here I will have to restart the service in order to use the changes. Now, if I use tail again and connect to the server, you will see the difference. These options were only for a request. So you saw the difference. I will put the default again, which is info, and save it. If you will look on the second sentence here at the beginning of the tutorial, this is the verbose level that I spoke about, and you will see here on the possible values of the log level. Okay. Next is the login grace time. In order to increase the security of your operating system or your SSH server, you will have to change this value from 120 to a less value, because this specify whether this value is used by the server to disconnect the connection after the time. Let's look here. The server disconnects after the time in seconds if the user has not successfully logged in. Okay. What this wants to say is that, for example, if I type SSH here and I pass a bad password, I am asked again to enter the password. If I put the password OK, I am able to log in. If in this time, until I put the OK password, the time passed and there is passing this amount of time, 120 in this situation, even if I type the right password, I am not able to log in. Even if I don't type any password and I pass the password after this amount of time ellipses, I am not able to log in. To demonstrate you this, let's increase this value to 10 seconds, right? And restart the service. Now, if I use SSH and type the password quickly, I am able to log into the server. If I type SSH, but I don't type any password for more than 10 seconds, even if I type the right password, you see here that connection closed by my machine. As I wrote here, if you set a very small value, the user will not be able to log in even if the user type the correct password. So a good idea is to use a small value, but not small enough, but bigger enough that the user will type his password, and you have to take in consideration that maybe the user will have a complex password. So you can use 60 seconds value, which is okay. Next, this password is this option is related to the root user. By default, this value is used without password, permit root login. What this wants to say is that the root user is able to log in to your system, but without typing any password, but only with keys. Another option here will be to with password or without any access. So if I use sudo su and now use the password command to change my password, now I've changed the password of the root user. If here I type the option yes and restart the service, now if I use SSH to connect the server but use the root user, you will see that I am able to log in. The problem with this approach is that if someone gains access to your user account, he will be able to log into your server. The recommended approach is that everyone should use using his user, and if they want root account, root rights, they must use a sudo account, or they must use the root password on the server but not on the client side. Okay, if you change the option here to no and restart the server, if you log in again, you will see here that permission is denied. So a good value for permit root login is to use no. Strict modes, the next option, specify whether SSH should check file modes and ownership of the user files and home directory before accepting login. The default value is yes, and I recommend you to use this value. Next is RSA authentication. This specifies whether pure RSA authentication is allowed. The default is yes, and this option applies to protocol version 1 only. So let the default as is. And next, the next option is pub key authentication. This specifies whether public key authentication is allowed. The default is yes. Note that this option applies to protocol version only. So if you want to use the key authentication, let this option as is. And I recommend to do it even if you don't use the keys authentication. You can let this option as is with yes, and you will not copy any key to your server in order to gain access to your users. Okay. Here are some options to our hosts that I recommend you to let the default as is and hosted based authentication. The next one, which is related to password, is permit empty password. As you can see here in the comments from the default configuration, it's not recommended to change this option because this will enable empty password. So if you create an account and for that account you don't have any password, you will permit empty password, which is a very problematic configuration related to your security. Okay, so permit empty password, no. Next, challenge response authentication to no. Let the default as is. And next, password authentication. This option is used if you use keys authentication only, and this definitely increase your security level, but it depends what you want to achieve. If you are on a production environment and you want to set access for only a limited amount of user, this option is really okay. But if you want to work in a development environment, you can think about this option and let this option to yes, because you don't want to gain access to set access for every user that you have on your server, because most of the time the users that are there are the people that are developing your product. So if I go to my local machine, and here I will go to my .ssh directory. Here I will create a new directory called Ubuntu VM, and I will use SSH keygen to generate a key. I will use this key to copy it to my server, and I will put this key on Ubuntu VM directory that I've just created. So press enter. I don't want to use any passphrase, and if I go to Ubuntu VM, you see here the keys. Okay, now I want to copy the key that I've just created. See here that I use the -i option to copy the ID RSA from Ubuntu VM, and I will copy it to http://livybolan.com for user Livio. Okay, so I've copied the key, And if I want to log in, now if I want to log in to log in to my server with SSH Livu at http.livuballoon.com, I am prompted to enter the password. I enter the password and everything is okay. But if I want to log in with my key, I have to use SSH -I and the location of the key. And now I am not prompted to enter any password. Okay, now if I change this option to no password authentication and restart the service, now I am able to use the key authentication, but if I use SSH, you will see here that I get a permission denied public key. As I wrote here, if you change the value here, you will get a permission denied public key. So it depends on what do you want to achieve here. But if you want an increased level of security, take in consideration changing this option. Next, there are some Kerberos options that you may want to use, and GSS API options. Okay, next, here you will see some X11 options that I will show you a little later. Next is the print mode T. Print mode T. Here you will see the description of what this option is doing. It specifies whether SSH should print ACC mode T when a user logs in interactively. This option is set to no, and I recommend you to let it as is. Okay. Next, print last login. If you look here, whenever you use SSH to connect to your server, you will see here the last login that you made or someone made on your server. In order not to show this option, is to put print last log to no. Restart the service. Now, if I log in again, you will see here no last login message. But here you will see this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff you will see even if you log in physically. So here I've logged in physically without any SSH, and I see the same message. In order not to show this message on your user when it connects to using SSH, you have to edit the file located in etc pamd sshd, and here you will have to comment this option, and if you log in again, you will see no info. And if I log in again, if you see here, I've logged in physically, but I see the same options. So this option for editing etc pmd sshd is applying only to your SSH server. Okay, if you want to see the load on your web server, you can use this command, which is landscape minus sysinfo. This is the same command that SSH is using when you log in to your machine. Okay, next one is the TCP keep alive. So if you look here, TCP keep alive, this specifies whether the system should send TCP keep alive messages to the other side. If you use the tail command again, exit and log in again, you will not see here any TCP sending, but you can increase the security level from your log, and you will see here the TCP sending. So here, if I log debug instead of the default option, and I restart SSH, you see here no TCP keep alive, but if you change the increase level here, you may be able to see here the TCP sending from the server in real time. And also you can change the frequency when the server is sending the data. Okay, next, another option that I want to discuss here is about using the banner. If you uncomment this option and restart the service, now you see here this message that is shown to the user even if the user didn't log in. This message came from this file, which is this one. You can edit this message and prompt to your user a message before the user is logged in to your system. I will comment this option, and I will discuss about the next option. The next option, accept env, refers to what kind of environment variables you can send to your SSH server. So if you look here, you will see that this option specifies what environment variables sent by the client will be copied into the session's environment. So if you use this option here, what this wants to say is lc_a is set to the value 1, and then SSH is called. Now I'm on the server, and if I type echo $ACA, you will see value 1, which is the value here. If I change this value or comment this value and restart the service, if I use the same command again, you will see here no value, because in the configuration file you see that all the variables that are starting with lc_ are accepted by the SSH server. By commenting this feature, you are not able to send any environment variables to your SSH server. I will let the default as is. This is a very useful command when you are writing bash scripts. But if you want to increase the security of your server, you may take in consideration to comment this option. Next is the subsystem, and use PAM options that you will want to let the default as is. Okay, so write the configuration here. And let's exit from all the windows, all the tabs, and before quitting all the stuff, I want to show you something. I will connect to the machine, and let's edit the configuration file again. Let's pretend that I will modify public key authentication . Now let's pretend I will modify, let's say, password authentication. Password authentication to no. Restart, and now exit. If I want to log into my own machine, I am not able to do it because I am able to use only public key, only keys to authenticate. But if I don't have any key, now I'm locked out. This is the first sentence that I told you here, that you may remain locked out if your SSH is the only method to access your server. Another approach to resolve this issue is to go physically to your machine. In my case here, connecting to my VirtualBox machine, and repair the problem. Sudo vi etc ssh sshdconfig, and here find the problem with the login, permit password authentication, yes. Restart the service. And now if I log in and know the password, I am able to log into my machine. So if you have physically access to your machine, you can resolve the problem. If not, you will have to call the system administrator in order to resolve your problem. Let's turn off the machine. And next, I will show you the options that I wanted to show you a little earlier. Here I'm having a Linux Mint with a Cinnamon installed, a Linux Mint Cinnamon installed. Start the machine, and on this machine I'm having a SSH server installed, and because Cinnamon is installed on my operating system, I have access to a graphical user interface, and you will see in a moment why I wanted to start the Linux Mint machine and not the Ubuntu Server machine. If I use the same command again, ssh live at http://livubalamu.com, something didn't work. Okay, something don't work. Why? Because if I go to my SSH server, you will see this known hosts file. I want to log in to the same host using the same name. The machine is different, but my computer doesn't know this. So if I remove the known host file and connect using SSH again, everything works smoothly. As you can see here, I'm on Linux Mint Rafaela, and what I want to show you right now is using some options related to graphical user interface. Here, it's about X11 forwarding. So if I use the -X option here, I am here. If I use the -X option and connect to the server, I am able to run an application from my local operating system using graphical user interface. So if I type xeyes and hit enter, you will see here a window which is the xey application, which is installed on my Linux Mint virtual machine. If I don't use the -X option when I connect to my web server, to my server, and use xeyes again, you will see this option, can't open display. So in order to use the X11 forwarding, you'll have to use the -X option when you use SSH to connect to your server. Now, if I open two tabs again and type SSH to connect to my server, sudo vi etc sshdconfig, and here change the value for x11 for forwarding to no, save it, restart the SSH server, and connect again using the -x option. If you use xice again, you'll see that you are not able to run an application that is using graphical user interface. Most of the time you will be on a server that doesn't have any graphical user interface, so using this option will not be very useful. But you saw how this option works. I put the default back to his value, and here you see that I am able to run xice from the console based on the fact that my remote operating system is having a graphical user interface. Another option that you may be able to change it related to x11 is x11 display offset. If you see here x11 offset, this specifies the first display number available for SSH x11 forwarding. This prevents SSH from interfering with the real x11 servers. If you see here, if you look here, you can type you can show the value of the display environment variables here, and you will see localhost 10.0. This came from here. The 10 value is this one. So this is very useful if you debug, if you make some debugging. For example, if I don't use the -x option, but I want to run an application that requires graphical user interface, you'll see here an error, but you don't know why. If you echo the display environment variable, you will see that you are not able to use the graphical user interface. This may be because you didn't use the -x option to connect, or maybe you didn't enable your x11 forwarding in your configuration file. But you can use the display environment variable to make some debugging on this. So these are some of the options that you can use in order to custom your SSH server. If you want to deep more into this topic, you can take a look on the manual page for sshdconfig. But these are the basics, and these are most of the options that are available by default on a Debian based operating system or on a Ubuntu Server operating system. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to watch my tutorials on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, and also visit my website liviubalan.com. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.